Welcome to Inside the Issues, Education Solutions for Arizona. I'm Olivia Fierro.
And I'm Steve Goldstein. We're bringing together experts, community leaders, and you for a statewide conversation about education and the solutions to move Arizona forward.
This town hall is airing across Arizona on TV, radio, online, and with local newspapers. We're building this event because education affects all of us, our economy, our communities, and our future.
Research shows better education is a top priority for Arizonans. You're about to hear what's working, what data shows needs improvement, and where we can go from here in a neutral, solutions-focused conversation.
We'll look at the whole picture from early childhood and K through 12 to higher ed, trade schools, and the changing workforce. And we really hope that what we cover sparks conversation at your own kitchen table.
Now, we couldn't do this without our partners, including the Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission. So who better off to kick off our time here than the Commission's Director, Tom Collins.
So good to see you. Thank you for this.
Thanks, Steve and Olivia. You know, there's no doubt that this is going to be a lively discussion about education in our state. Clean Elections is mandated by the voters to promote participation in the political process, and that's why we're proud to partner with local media to increase voter access to today's discussion. An important step in voting is understanding the impact of the issues in our state and the issues that voters care about. So it's an honor to help you start this conversation that we hope creates awareness and leads to new ideas, and most importantly, gives voters confidence when it comes time to fill out their ballot. So let's get started.
Early childhood education is the launch pad for lifelong learning. These are the years from birth through the age of 5 when the brain is evolving at its fastest pace and children form the skills for everything that follows in life. So here's a little math to consider. There are currently about 171,000 kids in Arizona who are of preschool age. Data from the Center for the Future of Arizona tells us that only about a third of our 3- and 4-year-olds are enrolled in an early learning program. Only 1 out of 3. That's notably below other states across the country. So why is this important, and what solutions can help to support early childhood education, such a critical issue? So let's welcome our panelists today. We have Eve Del Real from Head Start, and we have Dr. Chantel Meek from the Children's Equity Project, Barbie Prinster from Arizona Early Childhood Education Association, and Angela Rabago from First Things First. So I get to easily say, ladies, thank you so much for sharing your expertise today. I'm very excited to dig into our conversation. Chantel, I want to start just with you and talking about some of the research that you've been able to do so you can kind of set a foundation for this discussion. For those of us who are not working in this field, who don't realize how critically important this time period in children's lives are, how many of our kids are not getting the preparation that they need before they're hitting kindergarten?
Too many. So to reiterate some of what you said, right, we have decades of research that find that access to high quality early education is associated with a whole range of outcomes, education outcomes, health outcomes, employment, earning, and so on and so forth. But those wonderful outcomes depend on 2 things: access to high quality, access and quality, basically, right? And in Arizona, we know we're lacking in both of those places, right? We see that we're pretty low on the state rankings in terms of access to high quality early education. And we also have some work to do with respect to improving the quality of care, because you can't get those amazing outcomes when we don't have that.
Let me bring in Eve from Head Start to talk about your presence across the state of Arizona and what you have learned over the years. Arizona voters created this program, obviously realizing that we needed to have access to early childhood education. As the program has evolved here in the state, what lessons have we learned? What direction do we need to go?
Yeah, well, I want to start by celebrating that Head Start in general is celebrating 60 years of service nationally. Here in the state of Arizona, we serve 17,000 children. And for those of you who don't know, Head Start provides high quality early education and family services for those most vulnerable in the state of Arizona. The services that we provide are comprehensive, which means that not only do we provide high quality early education, but we have social services that are integrated, mental health, wellness, nutrition services. When you put all of that together, it creates this amazing environment for children and families to thrive in this option. And what we've seen is that, and historically, and I know Chantal can speak to that too, there's tons of evidence that demonstrates that children and families that participate and Head Start programs have way higher outcomes. We know that children have higher rates of high school graduation, higher educational attainment. Our families are also able to sustain themselves, and there's lower reliance on social service programs as they're going through the program. But I think that even the opportunity for a family to participate and just dream big of what they could do with their family during a time when they are experiencing some severe adversity, the program is there to serve.
Barbie, you just got home from an important trip, so tell us a little bit about your advocacy and what you were wanting our elected representatives to know about the state of education and early childhood education and development here.
Yeah, I just got back from Washington, D.C. yesterday. I had 9 congressional visits on Thursday. It was a big day. But we talked with both Democrats and Republicans on the issue of early childhood education and funding. And it is agreed on both sides of the aisle. This is really important. It's really important for families to have access to affordable, high quality early education. And the big kicker right now is this is really important for the economy and for the workforce, especially in Arizona. We're bringing in so many companies, worldwide companies to Arizona, and these families have to have access to high quality education.
Let me bring in Angela now from First Things First and explain also what First Things First funds, and you're touching on the quality of life for our children and families in a variety of ways, not just in terms of education.
Yes, First Things First is our state's early childhood agency. So we partner with over 80 organizations across the state in all of our communities to fund programs and services for children birth to age 5 and their families. One of the most important pieces of the work that we do is partnering with many of our child care providers across the state, over 1,000, to help them improve the quality of care in their centers and homes. We know that momentum has been growing. We feel like this is a topic that has gained momentum as people begin to understand the impact that those first 5 years have on a child's trajectory in later life, in their school education, and then going on into the workforce. We know, as you mentioned, that brain growth is amazing during these first 5 years. About 90% of brain growth happens in those first 5 years. So it really is a key opportunity to set that foundation for young children so that they can be successful later on. Learning doesn't begin when a child enters the kindergarten classroom. It begins at birth. And it really happens in the everyday moments that families have with children, whether it's with their child care provider or with their parents and other relatives at home. Those everyday moments of the back and forth interaction, we call it serve and return in our field, where a child is really learning the foundational pieces of language and early literacy development that's happening just through talking through your day. So when a parent is at home with their young child, talking about, we're going to be pulling the laundry out, and now I'm going to take out the socks, and we're matching these colors, and these are red, and these are blue. Those are all opportunities to really develop a child's brain in positive ways.
What steps should people be taking as they're looking for affordable options and also to make safe, smart options? I mean, it's a huge burden. It's a big decision of where you're going to place your most precious little one while you're at work.
Exactly. You want to look into high quality. First Things First has our signature quality improvement rating system.
Okay.
It's called Quality First. It's based on a 5-star scale. They have tons of information on their website for families to look at, to what you're going to look at as what a high quality center would look like. And homes can participate in this as well. So we know that parents want options, right? So they should be able to place their children, whether it's a Head Start facility or home provider or a licensed child care center, a faith-based provider, a nonprofit, wherever they choose. We want accessibility for that child to be in a high quality environment and for those experiences to happen.
So what are some of the impacts that you see long term? I know there's been a lot of research on the impact of Head Start in terms of who these young children will become, whether it's how they're able to stay in school later on or become contributing members of our society, or what happens when they don't have this access in this early time period?
I mean, because they do have the access, they achieve all those things. And I think that's part of the concern that we collectively have, is that if children do not, or the family have access to this resource, these cycles of poverty or adversity continue. And this is definitely a conduit that can help break that cycle of poverty, but then it can also advance achievement, because now the child has been exposed, and so has the family, to multiple resources that we know that lead to wellness and stability and socioeconomic self-reliance, because the family has opportunities to connect to workforce development. And what that does generationally, we know is phenomenal. We see that in the research. And I think for us as a collective, the opportunity for the family and the child to both participate in higher educational attainment is one that has huge economic benefit at a state level.
For those who are able to seek out a child care center, preschool program that they want, give us some insight into what people should be looking for. What have we learned maybe, over the last few decades that make things different? I mean, do you just think of them as, just playing? What are we learning is so important. And if you have access to and the option to select a spot for your child, what are you looking for?
In early childhood especially, this is the case across all kids of all ages, but in early childhood especially, feeling safe and emotionally secure, enables you to learn, because that's like a precursor. So you have to feel like you're in a trusting, positive relationship. You have to trust the provider. You have to feel safe in the setting as a child to even want to explore your environment, to even engage in any back and forth interaction that's positive and that builds the brain for learning.
We are going to bring in an audience question now. Right. So I have Mitra standing by. Hello.
Hi, I'm Mitra Kazi. I'm a governing board member with the Madison Elementary School District. And I'm curious, what can we learn from the different early childhood education models across our state that could guide Arizona's approach, especially in terms of preparing our K-12 students?
We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's been a model that was established, what'd you say, 60 years ago?
It's 60.
60, right? That has lots of research behind it, right? And we've been talking a lot on the emphasis on kids with higher needs, right? Kids living in poverty, kids in child welfare, kids experiencing homelessness. But the actual classroom quality indicators of Head Start are applicable to all kids, right? Head Start standards have better ratios than, for example, state licensing standards. Training for the teachers is embedded within the model. There is funding embedded for that. There is funding embedded for screenings, right? And screening, like hearing and vision screening, that's not an income thing, right? That's something that we want for all of our kids. And then the specialization, right? So like identifying and individualizing, right, based on what kids' needs, right, is applicable across. So I would say the Head Start model.
Ladies, this has been a fantastic conversation, and I just really appreciate the work that you do on a daily basis and your insights. So thank you so much to Eve, Chantel, Barbie, and Angela.
Thank you.
K-12 education is the cornerstone of our system. These are the years that shape futures from kindergarten through high school, where students build the knowledge and the confidence to succeed in college, careers, and in life. But our schools face, of course, real challenges: teacher shortages, funding pressures, equity gaps, plus a divide over school choice and access to education savings accounts, or ESAs. Yet Arizonans agree on the core K-12 goals. Data from the Center for the Future of Arizona shows that 89% believe every student deserves an excellent education at this stage of life. 92% say strong teachers and principals are essential, and 79% support increasing funding for our public schools and transparency for dollars that go elsewhere. So how do we make sure every child in Arizona has the opportunity to thrive? Let's welcome our panelists today, and we're going to be able to indulge in their expertise. Very much looking forward to it. So we have Catherine Haley from the Arizona State Board of Education, Steve King from the Yavapai County School District Superintendent, and Steve here, and Jake Logan from the Arizona Charter School Association, along with Carla Phillips Krivickas from Champions for Kids. So thank you all so much for being here. So give us a glimpse into the state of public education and what some of the biggest challenges are that you're facing.
You hit upon a teacher shortage, which is a huge challenge that we're seeing. And one of the goals that I have, and I think the goal for this entire state should be having a highly qualified teacher, effective teacher in front of every kid in Yavapai County, or across the entire state for that matter. And that's easier said than done. What we're seeing is a lot of teachers leaving the profession and not as many coming in the pipeline. A lot of leaving the state for pay issues. You look at the price of housing, and I know where I'm from in Yavapai County, the average price of a home and a stick-built home in Yavapai County, median price is right around $700,000. And I was the superintendent of a school district, the highest paid person in that school district, and had I not moved to Yavapai County 25 years ago, I would not find a place to live. So how do we expect to recruit teachers to come and live in Yavapai County and teach in our schools? So my two favorite words, as anyone who's worked with me for any amount of time, will be so what, right? We have challenges, but so what? What are you willing to do about it? So a lot of different things, working with the colleges, working with the universities, working with the school districts to grow your own teacher programs to help facilitate putting those the goal of having a highly qualified teacher in front of every kid.
So Catherine, let me bring you in and have you give sort of a rating. You're on the inside, and I imagine dealing with much of what Steve was talking about, that it seems like there are easy solutions when you're not looking at the complexity of all of this. But give us a picture of how many students are in the system and what our resources are, maybe what you would focus on as our biggest challenge and maybe our biggest win.
Great. Thank you so much, Olivia, and thank you for the opportunity to be here with Clean Elections and Arizona Media. I should note that, yes, I serve as president of the State Board of Education, but my views are my own. I'm also the founder and a partner of Oak Rose Group, a strategy consulting firm. But it's a real joy to be here. In our role at the State Board of Education, we have over 1.1 million students in our public education system. About 20-some%, and Jake can correct me if I'm a little off on my statistics, more than 20% are attending charter schools. We also have a rising population, about 5% in our home education, and more than 5%. We actually don't know the exact number of students participating in our private schools. But what's really interesting, since 2011, that was our peak time of student enrollment in our K-12. Due to sort of declining in births, we've seen a decline in student participation in our K-12 schools, but we also, over the last 30 years, we also have a lot of choice and opportunity. We'll probably talk later today about the empowerment scholarship accounts that we have. It's very interesting. Funding for K-12 education has certainly gone up. We used to be quite low when we looked at Arizona nationally amongst the 50 states, District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico, but we are moving up.
Well, and as Catherine's speaking, we're talking about all of our students, so including those who are choosing charter schools, private schools, homeschooling, other programs, and also those who have special needs that are also in all of those same opportunities. So Carla, let me bring you in and have you give us sort of a snapshot of where we are about your organization, what your perspective is, and the resources that are needed and currently available.
Great, thank you, and thank you for having me. So I'm a co-founder of Champions for Change, and we are a coalition of parents, attorneys, and advocates, bringing a voice for students with disabilities in all of these forms. So we're really grateful to be able to be here. So contrary to what I think would shock a lot of people, is about 14% of students in Arizona have a disability, meaning it's diagnosed and they have an individualized education plan. It's about 140,000 plus students, so it's a lot of kids. But what I find so interesting is that often the preconceived notions of students with disabilities is that they think of kids like with autism, with Down syndrome, kids with very significant disabilities, but 80% of kids with disabilities have what I call invisible disabilities. Mm-hmm. So you think ADD, you think dyslexia, you think of speech language impairment, and these kids are in regular classrooms with regular teachers all day. And those are the kids that we find that go undiagnosed, unidentified, and underserved. Mm. So when I think of those 12th graders who are not reading, I think, how many have we missed along the way? Mm-hmm. So I think if my one big takeaway is parents, if you know something, if you're getting that sense, that mommy instinct that something's wrong, don't be afraid to push and ask and evaluate and get the services and supports that you get, because oftentimes parents are told, he's fine, everything's fine, until it's not.
So Jake, let me bring you in here. Yep. We're talking about all of the options that parents, families, students have now, educators as well. I mean, the jobs can maybe feel different. Fundamentally, it is the same, but there are different environments that work better for some, both from a professional perspective and a learning perspective. So tell me about the options that are presented in the state. We always have people moving to Arizona, and they may get here and just be baffled by the system.
Yeah.
So break it down for us.
No question. Thank you again for having me. It can be a bit overwhelming when you're a new parent and you're trying to sort out where the right fit might be for your student or your child. So in Maricopa County, about 50% of the families use school choice if you define that as going to a school other than the district school they're assigned to.
Okay.
So that could be as...
what was the percentage?
It's about 50% in Maricopa County, yeah. It could be a different districts. That's probably the most popular option is I'm going to go to a different school within my district or in a different district. Could be a charter school in Arizona. As Catherine noted, we have a little over 20% of students in public education are enrolled in a charter school, which as a state is higher than anywhere in the country. And then you have the option of using an ESA and choosing a path that works for an ESA. So it can be overwhelming. My advice is always visit a school.
Yes.
You get a vibe. You can kind of tell if that's the right fit for my student. And where charter schools, I'm obviously a homer for charter schools, but I think a lot of districts have done great work too, is really trying to customize and figure out what is their thing. Is it music? Is it sports? Is it a dual language? Is it STEM? And there's so many good choices in Arizona. We've got a lot of work to do and there are a lot of challenges, but there are some really good schools doing really great things, district and charter schools. And I really feel like it's hard work, but when you sort out and you find that right fit, it's like magic.
So Catherine, what was your takeaway of the most recent test scores and what is going to be implemented as we are trying to make even incremental improvements?
Gosh, those are big questions. I would say looking at the recent NAEP scores for 12th grade reading and math and sort of the dip, when you look at Arizona scores, we had really sort of crescendoed up to 2019. When you look at our 4th grade reading just after the pandemic, in the middle of the pandemic around 2022, we held strong. We didn't really see much change, unlike much of the other parts of the country. And then we've sort of seen a more dramatic dip. What I would say is it's getting back to the basics. I think Carla said it really well of how many students have been sort of passed along and within our existing system that have not had the specific instruction or the support or educators or other members of the education team to come alongside to help ensure that that child has the foundation that he or she needs to thrive.
What do you see about the retention rates and also, what can be done? Where are the issues happening? Because we're losing quite a few kids.
Yeah, it's kind of been a phenomena post-COVID where there's just a lot of kids that never came back.
And absenteeism, chronic.
Yeah, absenteeism is a real challenge. And my hat's off to a lot of educators because they will literally go and knock on the door and say, hey, you weren't in school today, come on, let's go, and calling. And I feel like there has been an increased emphasis since COVID from school leaders on how do we make sure those kids are in school and showing up. And it's hard work. It is challenging.
We know that not everybody has a parent at home who is going to be invested in student success and understanding the value of being bottom in the chair, ready to learn on a daily basis. But for those parents who are very invested, do understand that this is the open door. I'm a first generation college graduate. I mean, the priority was there all along. If you're coming from this perspective, at what stage do you step in when you see some struggle? And at what stage is it best to be hands off? I imagine, schools are very challenging because there are some parents who are probably there all the time and really don't need to be and need to let people do their thing. So maybe from the two of you.
Well, I think it definitely depends per child.
Yes.
If you have children, they're very different. I've probably been accused of being a helicopter mom, so I have that perspective. I think right away. It's part of just going with that your instincts. I think parents know right away when something is off. And they may be seeing things at home that aren't being seen at school or vice versa. So I say, do not be afraid. Even the best performing schools, kids can struggle. And it's nobody's fault, but kids are struggling. So you have to step up right away and say, I think something's going on.
So maybe you should give the advice of how to bring an issue to the table while still being supportive of your educators and,
Young kids, kindergarten, first, second, third grade, we're seeing upwards 50, 60, 70 absences a year. that's devastating for their education. Not only for their education, but think about all the additional resources you have to put into educating that child that's taking away from every other kid. And oftentimes, if a kid doesn't know what's going on in school, what's he going to do or she going to do? They're going to act out. And that creates challenges, learning challenges for everyone.
We have an audience question for you today, so let me bring in Janelle. Hi, Janelle.
Hello, my name is Reverend Janelle Wood, and I am with Black Mothers Forum, and I appreciate the conversation. My question for you all is, how are schools partnering with families and respective communities to create safe and supportive learning environments beyond academics?
I guess I want to share the concern. If you have a child, especially with a significant disability, safety is paramount. That is the first thing you're looking for. And I will double down on what Jake said, touring and visiting, is it? Because unfortunately, it's all about the school culture. And something that you can't really measure, and it's something really hard to replicate. It's great leadership, but it's also something you know and you feel when you tour school. But if kids are not feeling safe and supportive, a lot of learning is not going to happen. Huge fan of extracurricular opportunities. I think helps with absenteeism, but also making sure that all those opportunities are accessible, inclusive of all kids. So I want to definitely echo that concern because that's really what it comes down to. So thank you for raising that.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, Carla, thank you. Jake, thank you. And Steve and Catherine, we appreciate your insights so much. And you can take it back to the green room and continue your conversation because I know that there's a lot more to say. So we really appreciate your insights.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Post-secondary education, whether university, community college, or technical training, is increasingly part of the conversation about what is needed for career success. But today, fewer than half of Arizona high school graduates enroll in any form of post-secondary education, and even fewer complete their degrees or credentials. The good news? Arizonans see solutions. Data from the Center for the Future of Arizona shows 87% support reducing financial barriers to college of all types, 93% support giving students access to dual enrollment or early college credit while still in high school. Arizonans also agree our public universities, community colleges, and career training programs are essential. So let's welcome our panelists to talk about access to this type of education. Susan Bitter-Smith from the Maricopa County Community College District. Jaden Fisher, Student Regent on the Arizona Board of Regents. Merrill Kemp-Wilcox from Pima JTED, and Rich Nickel from Education Forward Arizona. Thank you all for being here so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to go back to that statistic that I mentioned as we were starting. Center for the Future of Arizona shows fewer than half of high school graduates enroll in a post-secondary program. It seems like an incredibly low number. How did we get there, and how do we somehow try to fix that?
Super complicated question. Education Forward Arizona is a statewide 501c3 nonprofit. We really focus on advocating for and also helping create and model programs that increase our attainment rate in the state. Because we know that's good for Arizona's economy and Arizona as a whole. When we talk about that, what is now 47% rate, it's simply unsustainable from a business perspective especially. And that's gone down a full 6 percentage points since before COVID. So has something to do with it. But if you look at the ecosystem we're in, number one, post-secondary, to a lot of people, the perception of affordability is a big issue. So we did a poll a couple of years ago and asked people that had gone to college but hadn't, or any type of post-secondary, when we talk about that, gone, not completed, or those who just decided not to go. And we said, okay, what was the barrier here? And a lot of things we see on the political signs ended up not being the barrier in their mind, right? So I didn't think I'd fit in there. I had, didn't want to go because of some gender issues. Those type of things didn't poll. Here's what polled. It cost a lot. And all the costs associated with the cost we're also keeping people as a barrier. So we're working on affordability here in the state, I think, in post-secondary. The Arizona Promise Program this year, the community colleges also have a Promise Program that was legislated. But there's also other things happening in the preparation stage of that I think people are starting to look at, like more counselors, more dual enrollment, things of that nature.
Susan, you're a member of the Maricopa County Community College District Board. Give us a quick explanation. I think people know how massive it is, but it's the biggest one in the country by enrollment.
We are the largest community college district in the country. 10 individual campuses. We service about 140,000 students in any given time, and a variety of products, and which is I think one of the ongoing solutions potentially to this, because we certainly are a more affordable opportunity for post-secondary education. We offer the traditional associate degrees. We have now fast-track certification programs that place you right into employment. We have a lot of special programs that have been funded for very specific industries with corporate participation. And we now actually can offer bachelor's degrees. We have 11 accredited bachelor's degrees program, ranging from education to AI, to nursing, to business administration. Those programs will provide the equivalent of a 4-year degree, but for a much less expensive cost.
Well, I'll stick with you for a more specific question about that. So how do community colleges work with universities, or is there competitiveness? Is there a way of having more collaboration there to fix some of the problems we're going to be talking about?
We certainly have a collaborative relationship with the 3 public institutions and with some of our private 4-year partners as well. And I think it's very cordial. We worked our way through the 4-year degree bachelor's program issue, and we have that resolved. So anyone who walks out the door with an associate's degree is automatically accepted to any of the Arizona universities. We have an ongoing relationship with them in terms of making sure that everything gets transferred.
Meryl, let me turn to you. Let's talk about Pima JTED. Explain to people what JTED even stands for to start with.
Pima JTED stands for the Joint Technical Education District. We are a type of entity called a CTED, Career and Technical Education District. What that means is that our space we are a public district that only works with career and tech ed. Things that people used to call vocational training or shop class has evolved into a really robust and sort of high-end training program, really sophisticated training program to help equip students in industries relevant to Arizona, sort of across the spectrum.
Have the programs gotten better in terms of really meeting the needs of Arizona's workforce?
Our programs are very much selected to be things that tie directly into local workforce needs. We are a place where students, and we operate at the high school level, so we have 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders who can cut their teeth in a field, really understand, I like machines, I like engines, is automotive for me, is more of machining for me, is construction for me, or is it not for me, and the way to take that forward is in a CAD program or some other sort of an engineering program. This is a space where young people can figure out and sort of try their hand at things and then figure out what is the pathway that goes forward to that, either into the post-secondary space through the community colleges or the university system, or directly to work.
Susan, where do community colleges fit in there with CTE and what community colleges are providing for workforce development in particular?
Very much fit together. And again, coordination is key to that, but we then can take the next step where we actually have fast-track certification programs that are piloted and owned by employers. Mm-hmm. So you literally walk from the classroom at the end of 6 or 8 or 10 weeks the next day into a job.
Jaden, let's get you in the conversation. I think people hear student regent. I would think many people observing or watching or listening are thinking, not really sure what that is. So please give us a description. How did you get in that role and what is it that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in middle school as a part of student government. And once I entered school at Northern Arizona University, an opportunity came to me to apply to be student regent, which is basically a student representative on the governing board for ASU, NAU, and U of A. And so on that board, now that I'm in my 2nd year, I'm a voting member. I get to have just as much of a say as any of the other regents on the board. And I get to help shape the way that our public university system looks in Arizona.
So based on the early questions we've talked about, opportunities, whether it's affordability or something else, what rings true for you as someone who's gone through that experience fairly recently?
Mm-hmm. I think that a big barrier with students is affordability, as we've been talking about, as well as like mental health and just these students coming out of high school and not really being sure of where to go. And I think it's amazing how in Arizona we have all of these options. We have CTE programs that allow them to discover what their passions may be. There's community colleges who allow them to kind of get like a taste for what is out there. And so a lot of the work that I've been able to do on the board this year is surrounding mental health and well-being, which is a big driver of keeping students in college and not dropping out. So I've been able to go around the different schools and conduct these listening sessions, hearing from students and using this to actually inform change.
We're going to talk about affordability, I promise. I'm not just teasing that. But as far as accessibility overall, Maricopa County dominates the state, but we have a lot of people who live in other areas of the state, rural, in some cases tribal, low income. How has the state been doing as far as accessibility? How can an organization like yours help accessibility grow?
I think when you think about accessibility, what we're really focused on are including more people into this really crucial pipeline between education, moving into workforce that are from Arizona. It's not sustainable for us to keep flying people in from all over the world or all over the United States to fill these great jobs we have, right? So that's kind of the core of really what we're doing and why we're doing this. Number one, we need to, make sure that students across the state, regardless of where they're from, and some of these places you're really pointing towards, some of the what we're seeing as challenges is getting the right information at the right time.
When you look at how many students go to post-secondary, complete post-secondary, if we're trying to increase the output on the other side of that for industry, for our economy, for our community, the biggest intervention points are before they ever get onto a college campus. And by college, I mean anything post-secondary. I mean trade school, I mean community college, I mean university, whatever. And that's one of the spaces that career and tech ed plays a big role, because we do have CTE classrooms in high schools in every public school district across the state. We have access for students who are homeschooled or private schooled or at charter schools, et cetera. There are a lot of ways that you can bring young people and their parents together to start thinking, okay, I like health care. What does that mean? What could that look like? And be in a classroom where they can put their hands on tools, do real activities, have that mindset to think forward. And it's our job as the district to bring in guest speakers and connect with industry and help lay out those pipelines and those pathways.
Susan, I need to come to you on dual enrollment. First of all, explain to folks what that is and how it helps high school students get ready for the next step.
It's a great program, and it's applicable across the board, whether someone wants to go to a four-year institution, to an ASU or a community college, or a CTE, because it allows you to be, as a high school student, to enroll in a class that also provides accreditation for that next step into post-secondary education. It makes things far more affordable, and there's options for those students too. They can maybe graduate quicker in a 2-year or 4-year process, or it allows them to do more things in that 4-year time frame if they will have taken all of their core curriculum courses, both in a dual enrollment program and then ultimately in those first couple of years, and then they get a chance to explore new and different opportunities.
Did you do that, Jen?
Yeah, there's actually a resource called College Ready AZ, and it's a whole website. It's a landing page for students, for families, to be able to really make sense of all of this information and plan out how they want to tackle their career after high school.
We think sometimes we don't agree on much in the state. Well over 80% of Arizona voters agree that the state should be more active in helping to encourage and fund and invest in dual enrollment. We can't get 80% of the people in Arizona to agree the sky is blue on any given day, so it's meaningful in that way. We also know it's part of the affordability question, so we're certainly for that, and it gives people confidence they can do that level of work. So like ABOR, we have created a tool called Guide for Your Future, a website that really at any point from middle school on lets you know where you should be, what things you should be doing to get on that track.
We offer dual enrollment programs, so for some of our programs, like we have a really robust cybersecurity program on our campus, and our students get credit at the Pima Community College for that. We have a similar relationship in the engineering program with the University of Arizona.
What are the biggest challenges of countering that lack of affordability? Have things gotten any better? Have they actually gotten more challenging?
So let me start by saying Education for Arizona looks at this constantly. And one thing we do know from the data that's out there, we're not making this up, is that Arizona institutions, by national standards, are not unaffordable. Okay? We fall right where we should. Our community colleges are very affordable. Our public universities are right in the middle of the pack, doing a great job at containing cost. So there's a couple of solutions I think here that we need to look at. One, students need to have a much better understanding of what their real cost is.
30 minutes went by very quickly, but let me thank Susan Bittersmith, Jaden Fisher, Meryl Kemp-Wilcox, Rich Nickel. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Arizona is evolving rapidly, shaped by technology, innovation, and a shifting economy. Today's students face new challenges, gaps in digital access, emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, and preparing for jobs that look very different from the past. But this moment also brings opportunity. Our education system can adapt to equip students to lead in the future, and along the way, civic engagement can help build the collaboration needed for real progress. So how do we ensure Arizona students are ready for a changing world? Let's welcome our panelists. Peter Boyle from the Center for the Future of Arizona, Jamie Cassup, former Chief Education Evangelist at Google, Jessica Pacheco from the Arizona Board of Regents, and Katie Ratliff from the Common Sense Institute. Thank you all for being here. What does a bold, future-ready vision of education look like for Arizona? And let's just blow people's minds.
Absolutely. The future of education in Arizona and really all over the country is customization and individualization. You are going to see programs that meet a student's unique individual needs, allow them to fulfill their full capacity and potential. In Arizona today, the data says half of students are already choosing the school that works best for them, whether that's district open enrollment, a charter school, a micro school, a private school. And the fastest growing segment of education in our state is homeschool. It was traditionally about 2%. It's recently grown to about 6%. So still small, but it's tripled in size just in the last few years. So you will continue to see schools innovate and provide that customized experience, or they will start to lose students. We have fewer and fewer K-12 aged kids in our state. And so everybody is having to fight for students and provide a more customized experience that will prepare kids for a world that we don't even know what kind of jobs are going to be available and opportunities.
I'd love to put this into context,
Please,
right?
sure.
Because right now I think the world is at an inflection point. And what I mean by that is that the disruption that's coming with the next iteration of technology is unfathomable. It wasn't that long ago, and I love this, I heard it on a podcast this summer, that humanity thought the world is flat, right? We learned that the world wasn't flat. But when we thought the world was flat, we didn't know the questions to ask. And right now, with the advent of where we are with artificial intelligence and how rapidly things are evolving and how rapidly information is changing, the world's flat for us. We don't know the questions to ask. And so what I think is that not only do we need to be customized, right? We also need to be ready for an entirely new paradigm. So to your point on collaboration and engaging with all of us, meaning all of Arizonans coming together to ensure that we have enough flexibility in our infrastructure to be able to meet that need, a need we can't define today. So it's really exciting and it's a little scary.
So I'll take a different angle on this, which is, let's say education isn't broken. Let's say education is doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is take a population, about 80%, give them basic education, and make sure that they can do basic things. We don't live in that world anymore. So it's not that education is necessarily broken, it's that the world is, like you said, dramatically changing. And so what we need to do is think about what are the best learning models that we have, and then how do we use technology to recreate what that learning should look like. And so for me, customization makes sense, personalization makes sense, but what is it that we're customizing? What is it that we're gonna personalize? What I want us to focus on are human skills. The human skills that our students are gonna need for the future, no matter what the technology looks like.
So coming from the Center for the Future of Arizona, one of the things that we do is ask Arizonans what matters the most to you. And we hear loud and clear that education is one of the, if not the most important issues for Arizonans for our future. It touches every other issue. And we also hear from Arizonans that they're looking for schools to have the flexibility to meet the needs of every child. They're looking for college and career connected pathways. And I think whatever path we go down as a state in terms of education, an important thing is to do it collaboratively. So how can we bring together cross-sector solutions from K-12, from higher education, from business and industry to help adapt our system in this changing world to truly meet the needs of every student?
Well, so what are your thoughts on the how part of that then?
Sure. So one of the things we've been leading on at Center for the Future of Arizona with district partners across the state is the Arizona Personalized Learning Network. Traditional education, the teacher's at the front of the classroom, students are in rows. In a personalized learning environment, forgive my mixed metaphor here, but the student becomes the co-pilot. They get to not just plot the course for their education for where they want to go, but they get to co-design that solution with a teacher and with their peers to make that happen. And we've seen huge success in terms of student engagement and early student outcome increases from schools and districts that have adopted personalized learning models.
Jamie, I'm going to go to you on this one because you were former evangelist, education evangelist at Google.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's a really cool title.
Yeah, I'm in awe of you right now. So give us an idea of what that meant.
The title was really about, what I was really an evangelist about was education. I'm a first generation American, born and raised in Hell's Kitchen, New York. I grew up in poverty. I grew up on welfare and food stamps. And education was the silver bullet, right? Education is the reason I'm sitting here talking to you. And more importantly, and here's the thing that we don't think about, especially for those of you who are educators in our classrooms, is that the impact that you have on students goes on for generations and generations and generations, right? Like, I don't remember my last boss. I left Google 5 years ago. I don't remember my boss's name, but I remember my third grade teacher's name, right? That's number one. Number two is my kids. I have 3 of them. 2 of them are older, living in New York. I have one every decade. I like having one at a time. But my kids are doing well because of my education. That's the impact that's the economic impact of education, is that it goes on for generations and generations and generations.
I think the challenge of this moment in education is that we have to be prepared to go fast and slow at the same time. So we have to prepare students for this world that we can't even define yet. We have to make sure that we are enabling them to learn these human skills that are going to be so important, that they have the curiosity and the intellectual capacity to ask the right questions and navigating the world. We also have to make sure they can read.
Yeah.
And Arizona has been falling further and further behind in recent years when it comes to proficiency at 4th grade reading level, which is an indicator of whether or not you're going to be able to graduate high school at all and have these opportunities available to you. So we really have to, at the same time, take 2 steps forward and 1 step back and ensure that we're getting the basics and the fundamentals right and making sure kids are on track to eventually be able to operate in this new world where they're going to have all these new skills that they will learn in new ways that we can't even imagine today, but they need to be able to read first.
Peter, I want to go back to technology a little bit more and talk about how that balances out and equity. Sure. I mean, we know we're never 100% fair on things, but I think when it comes to the advancing technology, you want to make sure that people are not left behind, whether intentionally or unintentionally. So how do we work that out?
Sure. I want to answer this from 2 perspectives. One is I am a proud 4th generation public educator. And as we talk about these innovations, we have and should continue to start with students, because the system must be student-centered in order to ensure all of the outcomes we want, an excellent education for every child. And because we are a human capital endeavor, we need to make sure that our teachers have the support with these new technological tools like AI to be able to use them to be more efficient and effective in their jobs too. If you are a teacher, AI can seem really, really scary. Instead of my student reading To Kill a Mockingbird, they're getting the summary from a chatbot. Well, how can I turn that around and really leverage technological tools to my advantage? And so a lot of school districts are really leaning to some great guidance that just recently came out from Arizona Institute on Education and the Economy to help them do that.
I think access is absolutely critical and important. But one of the things that I think we failed our students on is this idea that we thought that because they were born with technology, that they just know how to use technology. And that's a huge mistake that we've made. It's literally like saying, hey, when you were born, there were cars. You came home from the hospital with a car. Did anyone's parents at 16 say, here's a car, good luck, right? But we did that with technology, right? We say, here's a phone, here's a tablet, here's a laptop. When in reality is what we really need to focus on is teaching these kids how to utilize these tools and how to manage themselves, how to manage their technology, how to use these tools. And professional development for teachers is absolutely critical, especially with AI, because it comes at us so, why we're sitting here, 5 companies were born in AI, right? Yeah. So it's happening so fast that it's gonna, I don't know how to solve that. That's gonna be a huge problem, is how do we teach teachers how to use these tools at the pace at which these tools are coming at us?
I think the important thing to focus on is we need to ensure that we have the flexibility in our school funding system to pay for these kinds of things. Right now, we have a funding system that is incredibly antiquated and has resulted in a tremendous amount of waste. We have $12 billion of real estate in district schools that's not being used. It was paid for by taxpayers, it was built by taxpayers to educate students, and it's not being used for anything.
But how do we balance the fact that the changing technology, money needs to be perhaps distributed in a different way? What does a model like that potentially look like?
One of the ways in which Arizona has really led on that front is through our instructional time models. So through legislation passed in 2021, we were able to become the first state in the country that actually divorced school funding from seat time. What that means is that now schools and districts can really invest in innovative models, project-based learning or work-based learning experiences, potentially tutoring opportunities, and not be worried about receiving very significant funding cuts for trying something new.
What about what Arizona, other states need to be doing to balance out the fact that advanced technology is needed, it is expensive, but there are older models that people to some degree want to maintain. So what is the combination going forward to implement more technology?
Even in higher ed, can you really tell me that it takes 120 hours to get a psychology degree and 120 hours to get a computer science degree, and those are the same, right? So we have to decouple those things across the board. What we should do is focus on outcomes. What are the outcomes that we're looking for? What is it that we want to do? And the reality is that we still talk about graduations. What is graduation? Graduation from what? Right? Like, when do we stop graduating? I love to get rid of that model and start thinking about lifelong learning, because lifelong learning is really what it's about. The idea that you go to college for 4 years and then you're done, I remember that. I remember being in a computer lab, working on my last paper in graduate school, sending my paper to my dot matrix printer, that's how old I am, and sitting there going, I'm done. I never have to learn anything again. That wasn't true 30 years ago, and it's not true today. And so how do we create models where we stop talking about graduation and start talking about lifelong learning and continuous learning, so nothing's ever done, that we're constantly learning?
Jessica?
Well, and this is where Katie's comments around personalization and really sort of modular education comes in, right? And so I should be able to go to any university, and our universities are actually putting this flexibility in place and have it in place, and learn coding if I want to learn coding. And then I should be able to take a psychology class if I want to, and I should, and I should get the appropriate societal recognition that I had that skill, because that's really what a degree is, right? Society recognizes that you have a certain skill set, and so you are ready to go out and do stuff for society. And so we need to, again, and we're in the process of shifting that, but we need the business community's help, right? And we need all of your help. We need to be able to say, hey, we need different types of recognition in Arizona.
So Katie, let me start with you. The idea of what teachers are being taught themselves now as they prepare to enter the classroom, and how does that evolve as we look to the future? How should it evolve?
I think we need to train teachers how to use technology as a tool, but not as a substitute for one-on-one teaching. I think that's why you saw so much learning loss during the pandemic, was we thought we could just substitute technology for that one-on-one relationship that students have with an educator. And you can't. It can definitely be a tool. It should be a tool. It's going to be a tool in all of our jobs moving forward, how we use AI and technology.
The pandemic really showed what the research has told us all along, which is that learning is social and it is relational. It is that for our students and it is that for our educators. And so we're lucky here in Arizona at Arizona State University is really leading on reimagining strategic staffing models in schools. Through their Next Education Workforce program, they're noting that one teacher, one classroom, 30 kids is no longer really working out. And so they're completely reimagining what it looks like to engage community educators and teams of distributed expertise working together to support different student needs. I think that's a model that we've seen when it's done well and when it's scaled can work really well to support student outcomes.
Now it's time for an audience question. Isabella, thanks for being here. What's your question?
Thank you all so much, first of all, for such an engaging conversation. As you said, I'm Isabella Lisco. I'm an education solutions reporter with 13 News in Southern Arizona. And I'm wondering, how can we measure whether Arizona is really setting students up for the future, but in a way that goes beyond test data, report cards, maybe goes back to that human skills conversation, because, with report cards in mind, maybe they don't paint the full picture.
Jessica, what do you think?
I don't think we can. And I think the idea of wanting to measure it and have metrics around it makes us feel safer about the unknown that's going to be happening in all of these spaces, right? And that the world is changing at a pace that we don't know what to measure because we don't know the questions to ask right now. But what I think we can do is we can ensure that we not only have a system for lifelong learning that we've talked about, right? We're not only teaching kids to get frustrated and then to have the joy of actually acquiring the skill, but that we're also talking to our job centers and really having close collaboration there with what they're seeing and what they need.
Peter Boyle, Jamie Cassip, Jessica Pacheco, Katie Radliff, thank you all for being here, and thank you all for joining us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you to all our panelists, our audience, and to all of you at home. Education shapes not just individual lives, but the future of Arizona itself.
And we hope this is just the start of a community movement to more deeply invest in the future of Arizona education. And we know that's a mission our partners at Clean Elections share, including their voter education director, Gina Roberts, who is here with us. Thank you, Gina.
This has been wonderful.
Thank you. It's been a really great, insightful discussion today. And at Clean Elections, we hope events like these inspire viewers to stay involved, whether it's education or another topic of interest. The key is staying connected, because when communities engage, Arizona succeeds. Your opinion on these issues matters. That's why it's important to vote in every single election, including those local elections. And Clean Elections is honored to continuously provide voter education on the issues that matter to Arizonans.
Very well said, Gina. Thank you so much for all of this. We hope this dialogue inspires everyone watching to stay engaged. Together, we can build a stronger Arizona. Thank you for joining Inside the Issues, Education Solutions for Arizona.